nobody likes change, first of all. And on top of that, technology scares the bejesus out of most people. So, you know, the whole concept of giving yourself up to it takes a while.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host, who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace. Mom, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. We are wrapping up this beautiful week, heading into the weekend. I am going to hang out with some friends tonight. I was able to do a little beach walk to start the day, and I might do a little sunset to end the day. You know, it's the beauty of living where I live, which is great. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. It's been a great week, but a busy week. So I'm excited for some R&R this weekend. I don't know about you.
Me too. Well, we have a very special guest today, one that has taught me a fair amount about something I know absolutely nothing about before I met him. So Joe Hollier is here, and he is the guru of the metaverse. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I get nervous when somebody says guru, because then I feel like I'm supposed to know a lot. So,
well, listen, of the three of us here,
I'm definitely a student and a deep learner of the metaverse. So we'll go with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, of the three of us on the call, at least I can speak for myself. You are a guru times 10, because while I try and keep up with this, I've learned a lot over the last year, doing some fun things with you and laughing at myself that I don't know how to do it very well. But I would love, Joe, walk me through, first of all, how did you even get into insurance, and how did insurance lead you to the metaverse? Tell me how that happened.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me, ladies. And I will say a couple of things you said there that definitely caught my attention. One is being able to laugh at yourself and just enjoying yourself. That in and of itself is a hidden benefit of just doing something in a digital landscape per se. But yeah, you know what? Insurance, I wasn't seeking insurance by any means. I was not interested in working in the insurance industry. It found me, it dragged me out of my house, and it asked me to go get my license, basically. And I'll take you back to 2005. It was a pivotal time for me. That's when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. At the time, I was finishing up. Well, I was trying to finish up college in my business degree. I'd gone back to school and was working in the hospitality industry. Really wanted to get my degree and start working towards owning a restaurant or a business. And I had an uncle who worked for AAA Insurance, and it was about 3 months after Katrina when everything was just a complete, I shouldn't say was a complete, it remained a complete disaster. And what he asked me to do is said, hey, you know what? Insurance is a great industry. It's got a great career options. I could really use an assistant help right now. Would you be interested in, and of course I said, absolutely not. You can't talk me into this. You can't try to bribe me. Insurance is for, people that sit behind desk, and I'm a creative guy. I want to be out there talking and doing things creatively. And he said, you know what, I'm going to try back. So he did. He tried 3 or 4 times, and finally I'm like, okay, you know what, I'll hear you out. Really showed me a side of it that seemed very promising. So I went and got licensed, started as an assistant for a couple of years, really wanted to become an independent agent, merely just for the idea of having options in the marketplace, being able to offer folks a lot of different things. And because I started at the tail of Hurricane Katrina, it quickly, in essence, threw me to the wolves. I had to learn a lot about underwriting and claims and rebuilding and rewriting, probably much faster than I would in a normal market. So, and my uncle was a great mentor. He really showed me how to have an insurance career and how to be a professional in a really smart and effective way, and how to grow a book of business. So long story short, I went out and ventured out and became an independent agent, and have done that for 16 years now. So it's been my career. It's been highs and lows, and I love it to death, though. And the best part about it as I've shared with you, Carey, is just the people that are in it. I've met so many fantastic people that I never even thought were possible in terms of how much they care about this industry and what they contribute.
Hey guys, if you're looking to improve your bottom line, allow your team to operate efficiently, and really improve that customer retention, I believe you should check out Ascend. Ascend is the all-in-one insurance payment solution. They are focused on streamlining your invoicing, premium financing, accounting, and they'll even make your carrier payables for you. They are taking agency bill and making it as easy as direct bill. That is a game changer. They integrate with all of the major AMS players, and here's the best part. It's free. There is no subscription, no cost to you. They allow your customers to pay how they want. If you are interested in improving your efficiency, go visit ascend.com/insurance refocused and let them know that we sent you. You know, I got to say, Joe, I didn't know that Katrina is what brought you into the industry. And I was just sitting here thinking as you were saying that, how difficult that had to be. Because, I mean, think about the marketplace today and the catastrophe that happened last year in Florida. And I mean, I just can't even imagine that that's your start. You know, you think about just having a ramp up and learning insurance and doing whatever, and you're in the middle of claims like you've never thought of and devastation that lasted for a very long time. So hats off to you that you entered it and you stayed, which is awesome. You know, that's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah. And think about it this way too. It was really like a true crash course in understanding how much or how important insurance is for families and property owners. I would have never thought probably that deeply about it for years, but once you see that kind of expanse of just devastation, people having to rebuild their lives and truly start to really understand what insurance means to people. That was, I had to say that was a silver lining. I learned that really fast, and it was hard. You can imagine. And we're going through this right now in this last year because we had a major storm in 2021 with Hurricane Ida. But imagine having conversations with people that are trying to rebuild their lives, didn't have the insurance they needed in place, or not getting the funding. And, the weird thing or the interesting thing about Katrina is it was such a large flood event that with all the extent of damage, FEMA was able to come in and really subsidize most of our losses. This past storm we've had, and I won't get too far into this, but it was mostly wind, and it was very devastating. It was probably, very close to Katrina levels of devastation, but it was very much wind related, which, in turn affects the carriers, affects reinsurance, but just a different scenario and a different kind of impact, but same kind of results where people just really bootstrapping and having a hard time getting their lives back together. So it's we've learned a lot, and I guess living along the Gulf Coast, and I'm sure you'll hear this from a lot of Gulf Coast agents in Florida and Texas and Alabama, that we have to deal with a lot of wind and water issues with all these hurricanes. So anyway, I'm not to go off on that tangent, but it's been an interesting, 17, 18 years that I've been around it.
Well, my perspective, I do deal with agents all over the country, and the ones that are in the Southeast have some serious challenges with carriers, with rates, with all kinds of situations, Joe. And it's interesting, but I will tell you, they're some of the best people I know. They're some of the most resilient people I know, and they're some of the most creative people I know, because you have to think about this differently. You've got to move and shift as the industry moves and shifts. And some of the brightest people I've encountered are in that region. And I think it's really telling that they've been able to build incredible businesses and withstand some things that, maybe the average person can't. So I agree with you. I've met some incredible people. But let's talk about how our industry's changing, because you're doing something that the average agent is not thinking about, right? I mean, come on. The average agent, I just looked at a study. I was at a conference recently, and I looked at a study that about 90% of agents use an agency management system. Only about 30% use a CRM. Some aren't even using VoIP. I mean, these are some basic things if you're running a sales organization and you're talking about something that is way beyond what the average agent's thinking about. But I am fascinated by it. So tell me how you moved into that. I love that it's obviously scratching your creative itch, and really letting you build that. But talk to me about how you see this connecting with our industry and why you created Nifty and this whole insurance community. Can you give me a little bit of background on how that even came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're right. I mean, in adding to your survey and your percentages, I bet you of all the agents, probably that would be questioned, probably even a smaller percentage, 15, 20% have Facebook accounts that they use on a regular basis. 2% of them may use TikTok, and 0.04% might even have been to the metaverse or even heard, or actually read an article on
Amen.
the metaverse.
Yes, of course.
So going into this, it's not. I don't think this is, and I don't think, I know this isn't for everybody, and this isn't for everybody in every industry. But to answer your questions, I didn't realize it was going to be the metaverse when I started looking at this stuff. Where I came from and where my head has been for the last several years, I would say it was more of like me evolving, wanted to connect with industry professionals in more memorable ways and more unique ways. Because you may or may not know, and Lindsay, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but back in like 2016, I said, you know what? I've been in the industry as an independent agent for 8 or 9 years at that point. All I knew was my little circle of, geographical agents and agencies. We all see each other at the same functions and all. It was very redundant, and it just kind of added that layer of staleness that I feel like has been in our industry for a long time. Nothing wrong with it. It is what it is. It's how we network and things like that. But I really had this craving to get out and say, you know what, I want to meet people that are beyond my 10-mile radius, people that are contributing to, because I would see their profiles on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. And I'm like, that's just people doing really interesting things, whether it's podcast or insure tech, that I just want to connect with. So you know what? I think the best way to do that is to start a podcast, invite some of these people on. And oh, by the way, I think I want to do it live, because then I'm going to get a real authentic conversation, and there's no holds barred. So I started the Insurance Scramble Live, which was a live podcast every Saturday morning.
Oh yeah.
Usually around like 30 to 45 minutes. We had a little cult following, but the best thing that came out of that for me is in about a 2-year span, I met so many people that I didn't know. I had people that I might have met at conferences want to come on the show. I just developed this rapport in an industry where it's hard to build those relationships and build them. When I say build them authentically, to where you can call them and talk to them about your family or your business. And that to me was special. And that really got my juices flowing. Well, kind of back to what we were talking about before we started here, having a podcast and doing it live and editing and running it by yourself is, it was a heavy workload in addition to everything else I was doing. So by 2018, I would say I got pretty burnt out in terms of just trying to keep up. And I put big expectations on myself. But what I really, like I said, I walked away thinking, having these spontaneous conversations, I really started thinking, and my wheels were turning. Okay, what can we do? And whether it's me and I maybe recruit a couple other folks, what can we do to start building a different kind of platform where agents could really create a different kind of community. I didn't understand anything about the metaverse, but what I started to notice is how valuable that technology could be in moving beyond just like the comments and likes of social media, but in fact become more interactive, creating more interactive environments where you could reward or be rewarded for the value you bring to other people in your industry. And then once you can start to see yourself in this digital world, you can maybe start thinking about, okay, how do I bring my audience into this? How do I make it special for the people that love my brand? So with all that being said, I found two partners that thought very similar to what I feel and think. And we said, you know what, we're going to start building something. I have no idea what it's going to look like. We're going to screw it up. But let's start creating something where people can start to see themselves in a digital environment and not just post to a digital environment. So from there, we got really into that rabbit hole. Okay, I want to learn more about NFTs. I want to learn more about the metaverse. All the jargon can really rattle your brain. It can make you feel like you have no idea what's going on, what you're talking about. And the best way I can say to try to simplify that is to look at the metaverse as much more simpler terms. It is a virtual environment where you have your avatar, which is just an extension of you, and you are interacting with other avatars in that virtual space. That's all the metaverse is. And there's 10,000 ways people are trying to build it right now. But at the end of the day, they're all trying to do one thing: create something that's special where people want to be, their digital version of themselves want to be, and how they can start to just bring new experiences to each other.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm actually in grad school right now, and I'm studying.
Tell me about you, Lindsay. I know very little about you.
So
please tell me about you.
I'm in grad school. I'm studying to get my master's in public administration. And one of the things that I took a class on as like an elective was data and technology, I think was the name of the class. And we had a whole week on the metaverse and NFTs. And one of the people in my class was like, I don't understand this. I don't understand how it works. NFTs, like, what are they? I don't get it. This is dumb, completely shut off. And one of my classmates unmuted and spoke up and said, when Facebook was invented, no one understood what it was. Everyone was like, well, why do we need this? What is it? When the internet was created, everyone said the same thing. Even like the iPhone, I don't remember, but I remember seeing videos of people saying, like, the iPod, why do I need an iPod and an iPhone? Well, no, it's going to be this, like, people didn't understand. And so whenever people say that to me now, like, oh, I don't understand this, so I don't want to use it. You don't have to understand it to use it. I don't understand how my TV works when I press buttons, like all the code in the back end. I just know if I press this button, this will happen. Yes. So I think a lot of times people are afraid because they don't understand how things work, but then they forget, like, I don't know how a microwave works, but I still use it every day.
Well, look at websites. Look how long it took for so many businesses just to get a website. They didn't see any real value. They didn't see any value in doing business there.
Right.
And
right.
I mean, that curve took so long to hit its, this vertical motion that, that's how we are as humans. Nobody likes change, first of all. And on top of that, technology scares the bejesus out of most people. So, the whole concept of giving yourself up to it, it takes a while. And for a lot of people, and this is just the truth, they want to see it in action before they commit to it. And it might take years of seeing it in action. And kind of going back to an earlier point, this isn't for the 60% of the industry. This is for the 10 to 15% that are forward thinking, know this is relevant, and want to start creating the virtual communities and the interaction and the experiences that are really going to be our future 3, 5, 10, 15 years from now.
So, Joe, I have watched some other industries. I'm not an expert, but I've watched some other industries do this in a way that actually makes sense. You and I have talked, and I'm not 100% sure how it makes sense for me and my business and insurance, but I do believe it's going to be incredibly relevant to our society and to how we interact as people. I think Lindsay's generation will be, it just is what it is. Maybe someone in my generation will say that happened during our time. Maybe some engage, some don't. I will say this, though. Let's just think about this for a minute. We're talking about websites and all of these things. When I think about what the pandemic did to our society and that my 71-year-old stepmother uses Venmo today when she would have never trusted online banking. I got to believe we're all going to engage in the metaverse at some point. I just believe it, which is why I was like, you know what? I want to learn about this because it makes sense to be relevant. But the one that stood out to me is I watched Danny Kimball, and she is doing something with her her family's restaurant. And to me, it's a tangible thing that you can put somewhere and you can promote it and have rewards. Talk to me about somebody in insurance that's doing the same thing so we can wrap our head around how this is working, because you've worked with some pretty forward thinking people that are starting to make this happen. Right, Joe?
Well, that's a great question. There is nobody that is really effectively doing this in the insurance business. And I'll get to that a little bit more in just a second. I did see Danny's post on her family's restaurant, and of all the industries, I think that it's starting to happen for. When I say happen for, they found mechanisms or ways, experiences, token-based experiences. We should say be more specific, because she set out and put out a whole I'm sorry, not a category, a whole what's the word I'm looking for? Collection, excuse me. Whole collection of NFTs that relate directly to their restaurant clients getting perks and benefits from the digital token,
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So, when I look at the industries that it's working well for right now, and then extracting what I think is going to work for our industry, I'll say this. Okay, so in addition to the food business, retail, it's working really well with music, art, a lot of things that surround art and have really niche fan bases. It's working really well for us. So, and the reason I think it is working well for them is because they're finding exciting ways for their audience to interact with their brand. They're creating fun, dynamic buzz around their history, about their changes in their menus, about their new product lines, whether it's Coke or any kind of retail product. Nike, you see it a lot with shoe companies, finding new ways to really interact with people and getting those fans, those audience, to help them tell their story. They're starting to create an extension of their story for the brand. And that is fascinating. That's what I think Danny's going to hit upon at some point. These customers that are buying into this digital asset revolution or evolution are going to start to recreate what her hamburger restaurant means to everybody that goes there. So these really cool virtual experiences are what's starting to rise to the top. And it's what we're catching here is the feeling of belonging, the feeling of being a part of something that's bigger than you, the feeling of unique experiences. So here's what I know. I know our insurance agent and our industry at large loves to support each other. But with all the content and all the comments we put on numerous platforms, all of our brands become fragmented. There's so many little things, so many little shards of our content that are, I wouldn't say scattered, but scattered. Scattered is probably a little bit harsh word, but it is fragmented. Your message and your story gets fragmented when you have so many different outlets you're posting it on. I'm not saying that's bad. It's definitely better than it used to be, and it's more interesting than it used to be. But we need to allow our fans and our audiences to become members of our brand, to be able to live our story and to truly interact with it. So I think when you're looking at building a virtual community, building a virtual space, or even if it's not a space, even if it's just experiences where they can interact with things in a digital context, it's going to change the game for insurance people, for restaurant people, for retail people. It's going to show how authentic you are. It's going to allow people, like I say, it's not just about you telling your story, it's about them living your story. And I love that about what I'm hearing a lot and seeing a lot right now is people feel like they're part of something bigger. And, something you might hear a lot of thrown around in these kind of conversations is, well, NFTs are going to allow for ownership of your brand. So now people are like, oh, put on the brakes. I don't want to start, selling shares of my brand here. It's not what they're talking about. They're talking about feeling like they're contributing as a collaborative community. They're contributing to what you are. They're not taking away from you. They're giving you more. They're giving you more of just amazing moments and memories and things that make you feel like you and I in a space where you're dressed up like an angel. That's such a small example, but the truth is we laughed and we had a fun time, and we probably got a story out of that.
Oh, we sure did. Oh my
And
goodness.
it's not even, and that wasn't even that, that was just a sliver of a moment in time when nothing else was really going on. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, um, people look at the metaverse and they think, oh my God, I can never see putting on VR goggles for 6, 8 hours a day and living in some virtual world. This is not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about you checking out from your reality and going into a virtual space and working and doing all these transactions throughout your day. This is about taking what you truly love and appreciate in your real world and meshing it with what's really special in a virtual or digital world, and bringing those two parts together so that it's almost like your website becomes three-dimensional. You can see it as being able to walk into something and feel it. You can feel the aesthetic of agency focus. You can feel the mood of what you're working on this quarter. It's just like, it just tells a different kind of story. And I just keep saying story, but it creates a different kind of vibe.
So, you mentioned the angel, so I'm going to share because I was invited into the metaverse. I met you probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. What you don't know is I got a lot of my knowledge when I first joined the industry by listening to your podcast. It was on the list of the ones that I subscribed to. And I liked it that it was raw and live. And when
I used to sing on it. Right?
I know you did. Like, it was amazing. So
I'm so sorry.
What's funny is when I met you, like when we engaged about a year and a half ago, I think that was, you were like kind of a rock star that I had never met before. I was like, oh my gosh, I get to actually meet Joe. Like, this is crazy. So anyway, I
felt this. The feelings are mutual, by the way.
You were totally a rock star, but we went into the metaverse and, I was trying to build my avatar and he was being very patient with me. I'm running into walls and I'm doing whatever. But at the end of the day, like, I got to know you, you got to know me. We had a sense of humor. It was fantastic. And he took a picture while we were there. He's like, we did a selfie. I didn't know how to change my clothes, basically. Like, I couldn't figure it out, but it was fun and it's hilarious. And you know what? I want someone who's going to laugh at themselves. That's the people I want to be around. And so anyway, it was a fun experience. I went for a couple of Fridays as well. And I even figured out how to dance a little bit one of the times. Like, I mean, it's really fun. So, but, to be honest, figuring out how to connect it and portray your mood and all of those things, that takes a little work. I think we have to think differently, but the people that are willing to do it are going to connect differently. And I know in this industry, connection is everything. It's one of the reasons we decided to do what we're doing today. I want to connect people that maybe don't get to hear the stories that I hear and get to feel like they're not alone in the things that they're trying to solve or trying to move through. And that's the same thing you're doing. It's just in a different way. So, I'm super excited to see where it goes. I think I have seen some people that are doing that connection a little bit deeper. I would point to David Carruthers. He has a following. He has a whole bunch of people that are trying to learn and be producers, and he loves Key West. And if you go to his space, you're going to know about that. Like, you're going to figure that out. And I think he's a bright guy that is thoughtful. And I think people like him are going to figure it out without question. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And he's, you know what, he's one of our early adopters. And we just put together his first virtual community space. So we're working on that now. And I'm much like you guys, working to bring his son in to help maybe manage that community. Because something I probably will touch on a little bit, as we look into 2023 and next year, and how to start engaging more virtually as an agency or as somebody who wants to just be a part of this a little more. So David actually invited me on to one of his webinar workshops recently to speak about this. And I wanted to bring him like 3 things that I thought were actionable steps to start considering if you want to increase your virtual engagement this year. So the first one I said was create your digital presence, your avatar. So to your point, which you were just talking about, it does take a little bit of time to customize it, right? So I think a lot of us, especially younger generations who play a lot of, do a lot of gaming and stuff, you look at your avatar, typically it's very generic. It's not somebody that it's not a thing you look at and say, oh, that's me. That's just me playing a game. Um, but when you spend a little bit of time, kind of fine tuning it, what you spend and the more time you spend with it, it does become an extension of you. And I've spent a good amount of time working or researching with my avatar, going to different metaverse spaces, meeting dozens of people or dozens of avatars. I haven't met any of these people in real life. Dozens of avatars. But what you start to notice is all the nuances of who you are in general, the way you gesture, the way you handle yourself, the way you speak, the way you interact, the way you have business conversations are very much like you and I are having right now. So it does become an extension of you, and you start to see that avatar as what they say a digital twin of yourself. You start to see that as a representation of you, your business representation that you can now see. It's not just something you're typing. You can now see that person, and other people, more importantly, can see that. So one is just getting out there and creating an avatar that feels and looks like you as much as you can, and spend some time with that avatar. Because it's going to be something you're going to utilize on a regular basis.
For sure.
The second thing I mentioned was embark on some immersive storytelling. Give people a reason to want to engage with your brand. Immersive storytelling, it feels complex and tricky, but really make it fun for people to do things that kind of put them out of their comfort zone, but do it in a digital environment. Allow them to go somewhere and do something, and click on something, or have some kind of augmented reality experience. And I don't expect anybody to be able to do this, but that's what we're telling people, so we can help them figure this out. It's immersive is everything, and I don't know how to say it any other way, but being able to bring people in and interact with your content in a way that's not just hitting the like button is really what I think is going to be relevant this year, and how that transitions to something completely different. And the last thing I mentioned to them is create, or at least join and learn and contribute to a collaborative community online. If you're not ready to build a space, connect with David Carruthers. He's already got a space coming up here. Connect with Glovebox, connect with the Virtual Golf Association, connect with anything that is going to continue to give you opportunities to jump in on something. And that, to me, is going to not just help you create your space, but start to learn from it and start to feel what it is exactly is going to make sense for your brand or your business.
Yeah, it's great advice. It truly is. And at some point, maybe Agency Focus will be there. But at this point, I haven't quite figured it out. But I agree with you. I think you have to stay aware and be connected there. There's just no two ways around it. And it is fun. That's the other thing. I actually got to know you far faster by going there with you and being a little vulnerable. You said it, like, Carey, this is super awkward. Like, you got to figure out which keys to move. You got to do this, whatever. It would have taken how many calls with you to get to a comfort level. When you're like awkward with someone else, you get to know them pretty damn well. Like, you were super nice and very kind. And, I got to know who you are in a different way, which was kind of cool. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Takes the
Joe,
edge off.
If someone wanted to create their presence and start contributing, like, where would they go?
So you can go. So one thing I will say, early on when we started looking at platforms, there was some criteria we wanted to meet in terms of we want it to be easily accessible, because we don't want to make the onboarding difficult, because it makes it even harder. We wanted it to make it something that would feel like a space where you could be yourself, where you could mostly be yourself. You could feel like yourself. And that's Sounds pretty simple, but we went from platform to platform, several different metaverse platforms, saying, okay, what is it that's going to make the most sense for us and what we're trying to do? So we, we landed on Spatial. Spatial is a platform that you don't have to have a digital wallet to log on. You can just follow a link. You can, once you're on there, you can customize your avatar. And a big thing for us is that we didn't have to actually own real estate or virtual property to build anything there. You can go in and you can build. Now, when you build, you have to have the 3D modeling or have somebody help you out and create the 3D version or environment that you want. But in terms of just ease of access, Spatial was great in that respect. So one thing I shared with Carey, and her support as well is, we're looking to build virtual environments now. So, what I'm doing for folks is I start to feel out the people that I think are forward thinking. And actually, I would say there's probably about 10 to 12 right now that really are at the cusp or already at the starting line of saying, you know what, I'm ready to create this space. Let's go ahead and start doing this. Let's figure out what it's going to mean for my brand. So I would say the best advice is, contact me or start to look at some of these platforms. If you don't want our guidance, I would say look and see what it is you want to achieve. But I know conversations with people that think about this on a regular basis can definitely clear up some things about, okay, what kind of experiences do I want to have? Do I need to buy virtual real estate to build, or can I just come in? How's the communication on these platforms? Just the kind of the nuts and bolts of accessibility, because at the end of the day, you want this transition, especially people that are stubborn and are slow moving to walk into these spaces. You don't want to create more barriers for them. So the easier, the better. And so that's kind of been my MO from the get-go is how can I make this simpler? I haven't always been very good at it, but I'm trying to make it as simple as I possibly can so that, at the end of the day, you can just step into this and you could start more thinking or visualizing what you want than thinking about, okay, this is so weird, I don't really want to be here. Because it can get like that. It can get to that awkward level. But truthfully, having the conversation with me or at least experimenting and checking out different spaces and just to see what the vibe is. Because I will say too, the metaverse was supposed, or at least in theory, it's supposed to be a place where you can go in as an avatar and you could just jump from platform to platform and then, just use the same avatar. We're nowhere near that yet. Right now we have about, seems like 1,000 different platforms that are being created and none of them cross over. So I think it's going to get to that. And, there are, like, for instance, Ready Player Me is a fully dedicated avatar software company that they build avatars, and they want to be the one avatar that goes from platform to platform. They're not there yet, but there's a lot of gold rush going on right now with those kind of things. But for people like us who are taking it slow and looking at the true benefits, I mentioned we're starting a whole separate entity or separate virtual world that's sports driven. And we're putting together a golf tournament, a virtual golf tournament. Why? Because golf is fun and insurance loves golf.
Amen.
But more importantly, it's an easy entry. We'll say, you know what, come in, play golf. We use a different software program to actually play the golf. But after the golf game's over, come back to our virtual clubhouse where you're going to see a leaderboard. You're going to see how well Carey shot that day or didn't shoot that day. And then, you're creating an inherent competition, which is a friendly competition. But now I think you're going to start to see agents are going to look at it and say, well, okay, this isn't overly complicated. This is just having fun with your peers or your fans. Or anybody that are your VIPs that you want to feel included in what you're doing or how you live your life and how you promote yourself. So it's just an extension and supplement that supports that. But to answer your question, have a conversation with us. Have a conversation with me. Contact me on an email and say, hey, Joe, I'm thinking about wanting to do this. What do you suggest? And I'm happy to help out anyway.
All I can say, Joe, is maybe in the metaverse, I might know how to golf because in real life, there's no chance, like zero chance, not something I can do. Maybe we can figure out a pickleball at some point. Like maybe there's something there, Lindsay and I love pickleball. Yeah. That could be something that we we figure out. But anyway, I love the idea, and I love that it's going to build a community. There's just no two ways.
It's about building communities. Yeah. If you take anything away from this today, and where this is going, it's about building community. It's not about the spaces. The spaces, people get really tied up in creating these incredibly aesthetic, beautiful, detailed spaces that they're nice to look at, right? But it's not about the space. It's about the community you build around it. And what are you creating with that community?
Well, let me say something to you, Joe. Let me think. So I just came out from a conference, and there's a lot of FOMO that happens for the people who are not at a conference, that are at a conference. Everybody posts on social, yada, yada, yada. But when I was sitting there and I was thinking about, okay, I have a daughter in the industry. David Carruthers has a son in the industry. There's a lot of people bringing young people in the industry. How are they going to connect at some point? I would love a place that could connect, my daughter with, his son and their thought process and the power that could come with the wisdom that they're getting, the exposure that they're getting, but also their new creative ideas. Wouldn't that be a cool thing? And
sounds like a great room,
doesn't it? I mean, it's like you can't physically get them all together. That's impossible. But could we virtually get them all together and have them connect with people that have been in the industry for a long time that could impart some of that? Like, that's the kind of stuff I think we need to do. Here's the reality.
That's where your head needs to be on this. Yeah.
I mean, the reality is, I talk about perpetuation planning all the time. A lot of agency owners are going to transition out of this industry. They are. And you know what's going with them? Everything they know. I would love to be able to preserve some of that and impart it on the people that are going to build the future of this industry in a pretty meaningful way. And it's one of the things that I would love to be a part of figuring that out. And maybe this is part of it. I don't know, but those are the kinds of things I think about,
I think you would be ideal candidate to run something or to put together something like that. And my wheels are turning when you're just talking about it. But what you just described would be an incredible idea for a virtual space or an environment where you could have just that, people sharing. When we started Nifty, the whole baseline, like 10-second or 10 word sentence basically was, we want to take what's valuable from the past and mesh it with what's valuable in the future. And what you're talking about is exactly that. You're taking what worked and what's fantastic about the people that came before us and how the young people can adapt that and hold on to that and utilize that, but in a different context. That to me is just, I think, perfect for what you could do. And that's worth exploring. And I think you could really hit on something that you can't find that other than, I couldn't go look that up right now, what you just described. Why not have a place where you could jump into that story, contribute to it, learn from it, and then, see and meet other people that are just like you who care about that and who have something to offer.
Yeah. What's crazy though, a lot of agents that are getting ready to transition don't want to leave. Like, it's been such a part of them and they want to stay involved, but maybe not run an agency anymore or want to. I mean, what a cool way to become a mentor to those that maybe aren't as close to you. Like, if you're buying your father's agency, you might not want him to be your mentor, but there's so many other people out there that could do it. And that is gold. Like, learning from where we've been is not a bad thing. I'm not saying just do the same thing forever, but at least learn from it and be able to impart it would be incredible. So those are the kinds of things that I think about. I haven't figured out we'll figure it out. Like, I'm sure I will.
Yeah, but look at the macro picture too. It's even if you had a space that was like a mentor, right? And just because it's not you selling your product directly, it supplements and enhances everything you do and everything that you are. So look at it from that perspective of building that audience that can give you so much more value than what they are right now, being scattered or fragmented.
Yeah, without question. Anyway, we could talk about this all day long, but I am so excited that you came on here to share it. I think a lot of people don't know what it is, and you are able to communicate it in a way that I think people can relate to. So I appreciate what you're doing. I think our industry is changing, and it's changing because there's people like you helping us move forward. So I really appreciate you joining with us, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate being here. It's great to share it, and it's an exponentially long learning curve we're find ourselves in right now. So patience is paramount. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's definitely something that start to just dive in a little bit and start to just try to be a part of nothing. If you do nothing else, try to be a part of a community that is starting to push that needle a little bit forward, and just see what's happening in those spaces. Much like you would a Facebook forum, now it's something a little bit different. It's going to catch on, and at some point, it's going to be much more fun and interesting if you are familiar with it than trying to play catch up and or just trying to pretend like it's not there. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.